League of Legends is sort of like that one asshole friend of yours. Everyone thinks they're an asshole, you know they're an asshole, but you've been friends for so long that they're just sort of part of your life at this point. League of Legends is a bit of an anomaly for me because it is a game that I often describe as actively hating, and yet I can't seem to quit it. Sure, I may take the occasional year off between uninstalling it, but even after 10 years of playing, it's still a title that I return to consistently. But why? It's not like I'm good at the game, I'm actually pretty terrible at it. There are many other games that I am good at and love, but I never come back to them once I'm done. So why stick with something that doesn't even bring me that much joy? How does this title still hold my interest and the interest of so many gamers? Well, it's no conjecture to say that League of Legends, or League for short if you want to save some time, is one of the most popular games in the world and has been for years. Its world tournaments fill arenas with millions more watching online, and this success isn't unwarranted. By the time League came into being in late 2009, the idea of playing on a team against other people was far from new. What set it apart, however, was its large roster of 40 different characters, but also how its unique gameplay was structured to ensure that teamwork actually mattered. Yeah, this wasn't a typical multiplayer experience where you were on a team, but in reality, everyone was mostly just off doing their own thing. It's a game that, for better or worse, requires all 5 members of the team to play their role and cooperate, sort of like any sport. Sure, you can have a star player carry you to victory every now and then, but this is a game where if one person is not fulfilling their role, it can easily throw the entire match. And this is sort of where the crux of the League problem lies. There are many valid reasons to hate League. Reasons that prompt people like myself to quit once or many times. Usually prompting people to make, long-winded videos about why they're quitting this time for real. The biggest reason to hate this game, though, are the players. Your opponents, sure, but more so your own teammates. League is known as a game with toxic players. Anyone who has ever played the game will attest to this. It just tends to bring out the worst in people, who are incredibly quick to anger should you make any small mistake, or should they perceive you as not being as helpful as they'd like you to be. Often people will lash out in chat, or even just refuse to play the game with the team out of spite. Now, I won't say that I've never done this, because of course I have. League just unfortunately provides the perfect storm for toxicity to exist. It's a competitive game, where every member, like I said, has to pull their own weight, but everyone is also hidden behind a veil of anonymity. In a basketball game, you can berate a teammate if they make a mistake, but then you are doing it to a real person. You can see the reaction, and the decency part of your brain usually kicks in before you can go too far with it. In person, you can also see that someone is at least trying their best. This isn't the case in League, so you just assume the worst in people. This makes you go from 0 to 100 really fast, because there are very little consequences for doing so, and there's very little else you can do if you perceive that someone is ruining your match, whether intentionally or not. Of course, League does try to keep things civil by rewarding good behaviors and allowing you to report on offensive ones, but it's really not enough. It doesn't stop people from leaving in the middle of a game, because the punishment for that is just sort of a short timeout before they can play again. Going back to basketball again, it's like trying to stop people from walking off the court in the middle of a match, or even actively trying to score on your own basket. This sort of toxicity makes it extremely tough for new players to get into the game, because they are berated for every little mistake, and it makes the whole experience extremely unpleasant. For veteran players, this sort of toxicity makes losing matches that much worse, and it even makes winning, especially if you have a toxic teammate, feel bittersweet rather than glorious. Compounding this frustration is that games can take between 30 to 40 minutes to play, which is quite the time commitment to be stuck with someone who's really unpleasant. This lengthy time factor also adds to the weight of any loss, given that it could be several hours between wins if you're having a rough day. So it begs the original question, why play at all? League is far from the only game in town anymore. There are many different types of MOBAs out there that I could try, or other competitive games like Rocket League. but I won't. There's something about League that keeps me coming back. It's more like the devil I know, and I'm committed to not let it beat me. As miserable as all those other players can be, it is that human element, like any sport, that ensures that each match is a fresh experience. Victory is never assured. You are pitted against people who are mostly of the same level and ability as you. So each win feels like the result of actual skill and coordination on your part, instead of simply getting lucky or having better weapons or being a higher level or getting a better kill streak or whatever. Knowing this, knowing that you are playing against others who are of the same skill as you, there's always that little pressure, that incentive to improve, to grind and get better. It's an ongoing test of your skill against other players, which manifests into climbing through the ranks to show empirically that you are indeed better than some others. Look, I have been playing this since Game of Thrones first aired, so I've been at it for a while. And like I said at the start, even after all this time, I am remarkably average in my ability to play. There's a lot going on in any given match, and I understand just enough to cover the basics, and then tend to quit for very long stretches of time and have to relearn everything all over again whenever I come back. But I know that when I do, there will be a place where I can go to test myself. Or I can always play an unranked match, which has all the suffering of a ranked game with none of the intangible rewards. Competition and self-loathing aside, League does do a lot of other things right that can keep you hooked. It has an incredibly deep lore for its massive world and numerous characters, if you're into that sort of thing. I'm not all about that reading, but if it gives me more stuff like Arcane, I'm all here for it. It also manages to stay consistently fresh by updating and improving the roster of characters. This, combined with balancing and minor but noticeable changes to the overall gameplay, keep it feeling like it is constantly evolving without going stale. So why do I still play League? I don't know, I must just hate myself. But really, as often as I hate the people, I do, at least in part, love the competition. I like trying to prove myself to myself, as well as my team. I like being part of the reason that we achieve a win. That's the appeal of League to me. Having a great match, seeing that I've done well against other real people, feels amazing and scratches that little competitive part of my brain unlike any other game. While this is often overshadowed by crushing or frustrating losses, those few sweet moments are bright enough to keep me coming back. I have no doubt that there will be some day where I delete League forever, for whatever reason. But for now, I'm happy to chase those fleeting wins. I'm always happy to hear why others have quit or continue to play this game. But for now, thanks for letting me talk gaming.